important. Yeah, Kermit, sorry, I was gonna log on earlier, but I'm on another meeting in Teams and it was unexpected, but I rather be here.
Good,
I
good,
got
good.
the what you call that where they generate the text while they're talking, so
That's
I can watch that on the other computer. Hey, I like your shirt.
brand new, bro. I just got them in 2 or 3 days ago. Check this
Oh,
out. This was the selling point. I like the concept, but but okay, how do
how's
I
it?
do my hand? Okay. Moke and Buttless. That's OG, man. That's OG because I
Yes.
bet you millennial local kids,
Yeah.
they don't know what a moke is.
Yeah, they have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway, introductions. I am here with Kevin Garcia.
Hey, hi everybody. Hey Kermit, how do I put another picture behind me like how you have your Kamehameha and stuff like that?
In your audio or video setting,
Video
it,
settings.
it says adjust background and effect. And then when you do an ad, you can pretty much put any picture. I mean, uh, let me just kind of,
Let's
here's
see.
Kanakakai.
FaceTime.
Um,
I got blur my background. Oh, video settings. Okay, I got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
that,
Got
I
it.
got that. This is my most recent one I've been using, Campus. And I was gonna dig and find yours, but you look exactly the same. So Kalani Ching has changed a little bit.
You
Wayne
know,
Howe, I for some reason I couldn't grab his eyes, and same with Kamuela Chan. But
uh,
I thought I would take myself back to downtown Kanakakai for today.
yeah, that's beautiful, man. Is that a current picture?
I don't think
That
so. I don't know.
that looks like a 66 in a background, hot rod or something. Yeah, I wanted to put a picture up of, I got a really nice picture of Haleakala at night. We were flying one day from Los Angeles to, I mean, from Honolulu to Los Angeles, and we had to fly over Maui, and it was a beautiful picture of of the moon and the stars and a clear night. And yeah, the co-pilot said, "Hey, you mind if I take a picture of this?" Because he was an amateur photographer, and it turned out really, really nice. So I wanted to put that up behind me.
Yeah,
And
because for every meeting I have on Zoom, depending on what I'm doing, whether it's my speaking group or just playing around or whatever, I try and get a specific background that ties in a little bit. So
yeah, that's cool. I like your Kamehameha background. And I like the Molokai. I wanted to put some up too, but
yeah,
kind of I'm kind of lost at that point for this. So I'll learn it sooner or later. This
yeah,
technology has kind of
just
really.
have the picture somewhere, either in your photos or your downloads, and then when it says add, you go to it, click, and it's there.
Okay. Well, I'll try to do that while we're talking so
Mhm.
I don't spend too much time. But hey, listen, I want to start by saying thank you so much for everything you do, for just being the catalyst of connecting us with our classmates. You know, there's a lot of things we didn't know. It was nice to see their paths since graduation, but also before Kamehameha. You know, I didn't know I was at Fern School the same time Michelle Gonzalez was in kindergarten. We must have been in the same class, and I didn't know I was there when Rhonda Hainish was at I intermediate. When my family moved from Cohill Park Terrace, when they started building it, we moved kind of around the place trying to find a home, and we ended up in Aiea. The same time Daryl Kalenamoku moved to Aiea when they're cutting down all the cane fields. And then recently I saw Laura Lay was in Japan and Thanksgiving, and I was there too. I wish I
Yeah, I
knew.
mean, it's a smaller world than we actually think.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
didn't even
really,
know.
what?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
didn't even know. Not until this past couple of years I realized Patrick Choi was Sam Choi's brother. Because they're built differently.
Yeah,
You know, Patrick is tall, and Sam, I seen him in person. He's vertically challenged. He's a really nice man, but he's so much shorter than Patrick. And it wasn't until recently I was like, hey, I bet they're related. And then yeah, Patrick said they were. And if I had known earlier, God, I went to the restaurant when Sam Choi had opened his restaurant in Kona, up in the warehouse district, and it was a huge deal for us locals because he was introducing the loco moco. So I jumped in my plane and went to Kona. I took my wife to lunch, and we went up the warehouse district, and we ate loco moco. And if I knew Patrick was there, I would have called on him so I can be a celebrity with him. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many. Here we are 50 years later, and when I was talking to Danelle Avellino, her older brother was in my dorm for 4 years. I mean,
and
well,
never
I guess
know.
year ahead of me. He was only there 3 years that I was there, but yeah, never clicked, never put nothing together, and it's pretty wild. A lot of
Yeah.
things have come up after I started the project
Hmm.
that have made me more glad I'm doing it, because at first it was just to catch up a little bit. But
Yeah.
now I'm finding out, people who are not planning to attend
Yeah.
still get to benefit.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think you made mention too. Now we've saved some time when you and I walk up on each other at class night. We're not going
Yeah.
to have to waste 40 minutes on
Yeah.
what's been going on, man. We could,
Uh,
boom, like you said, start at second base, man.
Yeah, we start the baseball game at second base. That's a
Yeah.
that's a wonderful thing for us, us at our age to have a head start. So we can
And
go
it's,
just go straight from the hugs to the laughter, and that would be awesome. So yeah, really, thank you so much. But how you like being a grandpa?
well, I like being grandpa as much as being two times a great grandfather.
Oh, that's right. I heard that.
That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. I have the second great grandson. First one was a granddaughter, was born April 15th, and he lives about 4 hours north of me, so I haven't seen him yet. But
Wait, that's tax day.
yeah, so I don't know if you can write it off that same year before midnight or how that works, or
Yeah, I hope it was a good year.
some legalities to worry about.
Yeah, so you got nine now? You almost in the double digits?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm swamped by guys like Ray Fujikawa and Richard
Oh,
Bartlett, and
uh, they got hula halaus. So one day I hope to get to that point. I really enjoy being a grandfather, and I hope to get to that point where I can have my own, hula halau, no money enough diapers. That's
I
gonna be
just, I told Richard especially, I said, because I think he has a larger number, but I said, man, at 9, name selection gets a little foggy. At double digits, man, I'm gonna have to just go by clothing. Hey, you with the blue shirt.
yeah, I know.
And
And
heaven forbid you ask me birthdays. I no, I gotta look them up. I
it's almost like punishment because we get more young ones and then our brain gets older. So it gets more challenging. And it's like somebody up there didn't plan this right for us.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I totally, totally love it. I got two. I got a 4-year-old grandson and a 2-year-old granddaughter, and they just got me wrapped around their fingers. I just never thought I'd be like this. Just a week and a half ago, I was in Nebraska spending time with them, and we have a place there. And My 2-year-old, I bought her this little Target shopping cart. They had these little mini shopping carts, and I can hear her in the living room shopping, putting her toys in there and her make-believe groceries, and then it got silent, and she goes, uh, "Where's Grandpa Kevin?" And I was like so thrilled and heartwarmed, because you see them only once a month. You think they're gonna forget you with all the grandpas and grandmas. So I ran in the next room and we had a good time. But she really just wanted me to pay for her make-believe groceries. But at least for a moment, I made Grandpa Hall of Fame. So and it was the thought that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So you
love it.
live where now? You're in Oahu.
Yeah, I'm in East Nanakuli. I tell everybody that because you see you from Colina, they're like, "Oh, you think you can sing too a bit, huh?" I'm like, no, not really. It's a beautiful day out here today. I had to close everything up because I got the gardeners. The gardeners are all outside, doing their thing with the weed whackers and stuff. I was like, darn, it was a beautiful day to do a Zoom outside on the lanai, but uh, maybe next time.
Yeah, the calendars can do that to you. So let's get
Yeah.
ourselves a starting point, Kevin. What grade did you start Kamehameha?
I started in the 10th grade.
Okay.
Uh,
Who?
was Bonnie.
Okay.
Bonnie said she started in 10th grade, and Dean Appa and Robert Freitas also came into the 10th grade with me that time.
Ah, yeah, Robert. Okay, because he was in my
Yeah.
dorm. Okay.
Um, but I bled blue and white long before I got in at 10th grade because my dad was a Kamehameha graduate and my mom worked for Miss Lord at the intermediate school. So I knew all about some of our classmates before I got there. When they introduced themselves, I was like, "Oh, danger, danger." And then no,
Ah,
everybody was good. Everybody was good. But my mom worked for Miss Lord. My older sister was already attending Kamehameha. My older brother attended Kamehameha.
how
Later
many
on,
siblings you have?
I got six. We got seven in our family.
Wow.
And so five of us went to Kamehameha, but before I got in, I went to every football game and every basketball game, and I sat in the bleachers during track meets, and you know, I just dreamt of wearing Kamehameha across my chest. That's all I wanted to do when I was a kid, but um, yeah, I ended up taking the circuitous route. I applied for kindergarten and first grade, third grade, or fourth grade and seventh grade. And well, as you know, Kermit, back then when you guys tested, it was all based on looks, huh? So never got in. But Billy Cam reminds me she got in kindergarten. So
Well, all of us were so much better looking in kindergarten, probably. So,
yeah. Yeah, so never got in. I thought the world had ended. I was so bummed. I told my mom I didn't want to do this anymore, getting rejected. And my mom, she had this proverb she held close to her heart. It was a French proverb that translated into it's by believing in roses that brings them to bloom. So I held that real close to me and hoped that I'd get into the ninth grade, my last chance, and then it didn't happen. Oh, it sucked so bad. Um, yeah. So
well, roses are tough to grow, Kevin, I've heard. So,
I guess so. Yeah. So they sent me to Damien Memorial High
okay.
School, which I heard Stephanie call it today. It was we called it the same thing, the lower camp Kapalama campus Kamehameha. Because everybody who were at Damien had applied to Kamehameha at one time or another. So we had a standing joke that what does a Damien student have that no Kamehameha student has? It's a rejection letter from Kamehameha. So Yeah, so but you know how sometimes life has you go down the path of life and you come to a fork in the road and the path you want is closed and you end up going the other direction. And years later you find out, that was a fortunate event. Like it was a blessing in disguise. So my year at Damien was pretty much a blessing because I played freshman football and I got to be coached by this uh, really, really great coach. His name was Bob Hall, and he played for the University of Washington Huskies, and he played at 185 pounds. He was the smallest center in Division One football starting that year, and they won the Pac-10 or Pac-12, but he was my position coach, and he taught us a lot about uh, character and adversity and performing above your expectation. And he was just a fantastic coach, and that's why I admire what Rhonda them did and Jeff did because they probably impacted so many lives on since graduating from Kamehameha. And we had
Yeah.
some teachers at Kamehameha that did the same thing. But I also had another coach I got to play under, and his name he was a really great mentor at that time and a really good man. Eventually, he became the founder of the Polynesian Voyaging Society and the first navigator of the Hokulea, and that was Nainoa Thompson. I got to be coached by him.
Wow.
So it ended up being a good thing. And then I got my letter. I didn't even test, got my letter, which 10th grade. Come to Kamehameha, we need a quota. We had all the good looking guys in already. We need the Filipinos. So ta-da! 3 years. 3 years at Kamehameha. Pretty awesome.
Good, good, good.
Best friends of my life.
So once we graduated, what was your next step?
So I kind of sloughed off a little bit, you know. I went paddling canoes with Mike Maderos and Charlie Padua for the Kamehameha Canoe Club. I was trying to figure out how I was going to pay for school. Um, I got a job at Liberty House as a night janitor, and in the daytime, I was a counselor and a swim instructor at the YMCA. That was enough to pay for UH, just enough to pay for tuition and Cliff Notes. You couldn't buy the books, but I could buy the Cliff Notes, which was good because I didn't want to read the book anyway. I wish they had YouTube back then. But
Oh man, that would have been nice.
oh man, yeah, right. Or what is that? GP chat, all that stuff. But yeah, and then sometimes my friends and I we played music on Friday nights at weddings. I called it reception music or walking music, kind nobody listens to, but if you stop playing, they go, "Hey, bro, what a music." But when you're playing, nobody listens, they just talk. So we played there for tips. A lot of times we didn't make any money, but um, the best tip I had was I think $150 one night.
Wow.
Actually, the best tip I had was somebody going, "Hey, bro, you should get another job." So, because we really sucked. We totally sucked.
What instruments do you play?
Guitar. I was listening to Danielle Avelino. She says she plays just by ear, and my whole family just plays by ear. And so I kind of related to her. Like when people tell you, "Hey, teach me," my sons go, "Teach me how to play something like classical gas or something." It's hard to teach when you don't know theory, you just go, "Well, follow me." And they don't follow you. You're like, "Oh, what's wrong with you, boy?" Gee. It's hard to explain when you play by ear only, or you don't know
I
how to read.
imagine. So seven of you, you say your family all does that. I wonder if it's some kind of genetic thing you can attribute it to, or
You mean having seven of us? That's having no TV in the house or black and white and being Catholic.
well, no, but you mentioned your whole family plays by ear. So,
Oh, no, my uncles and aunties, they all played in bands. Remember we used to have
oh,
battle of the bands back in our days, and they would bring in all the bands. Yeah, all my aunties and uncles, they play piano and guitar and played in bands just by ear. So Just kind of like you follow along. You just keep strumming, and sooner or later, you hit a chord. Yeah.
Um,
Um, yeah, so that was it. And then went to UH for I got enough money to pay for UH and also I got bought myself a 1976 Volkswagen Bug. That was my first car and it was $99 a month, just like Kathy's truck. 90, it must have been the sale during our years. $99 a month. You can buy you a truck or a Volkswagen Bug and
well, I've heard that, in marketing, there's something about, you know, 4.99, 8.99. That way you
Hmm.
get the extra dollar without them stopping to think about it.
Yeah. I heard that too. It's a psychological thing. Well,
Uh,
they caught me.
I had a 67 bug I bought uh
Oh my God, that's the best.
3 or 4 years, maybe 3 years into college. I wasn't that far in, so and yeah, I mean it lasted forever, just ran it to death. I mean, gas and that's pretty much it. Changed
What
that.
color was it?
It was like a ivoryish, dirty ivory.
Oh my God, that's
For
a
my
class.
budget, the paint job was uh what I call an anti-theft paint job. You can leave it on the street, windows down, key in the ignition,
Yeah,
nobody's touching it. So
yeah. When you're right, when people come around, they go, we gotta steal that bug." Oh no, that's right. No. Yeah. Because bugs, they would steal them and they would go and steal the radios out of them and but you could fix that. You can actually build an entire new bug with parts from Mexico or Brazil. And I remember like like back in the 90s, a bug engine was $400, brand new engine. You just buy the engine, drop them in 4 bolts, and brrrr, you're gone. Those cars were
yeah.
fantastic.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you might have known at Kamehameha, he was class of 74, Mark Apau.
Yeah, he had a sister, uh, like 2 years below us. What was her name? Because I remember both of them.
But I ran into Mark in San Antonio in 83, and he was active duty Army, but he had such a fascination and a gift for, he would go out and buy anything Volkswagen, old vans, Carmen Gias, bugs, and just redo them almost to showroom and sell them. And he made real good side money doing that.
Wow, is he
But
coming to the reunion?
well, he's not our class, so he's 74.
Oh, oh, maybe it's the wrong guy I'm thinking of then.
Yeah.
Man, I would
We
love to meet him. I just admire that kind of people that can just put stuff together like that. Just, you
And
give them
just
a
the
water
simplicity,
hose.
I mean, a bug, 4 bolts and a floor jack and the engine's out, I mean,
Yeah.
so
I always admired that kind of people that can, you give them a water hose and they build a car around it. That kind of people. I had my stick partner in flight school. One of my stick partners, his name was Bubba Ferrer. He went to Michigan State University, and he was an aero engineer. And his senior year at Michigan State, he interned at the Ford Motor Company, and they made him design the Ford Mustang, the 1979, 1980 Ford Mustang. So he showed up on day one on base driving a brand new fire engine red Ford Mustang that he had designed, that Ford gave him to him as a graduation present. I was like,
wow.
what? Well, who does that?
Boy, talk
Oh
about a
man,
bonus, man.
I, I was freaking impressed, jealous and impressed,
Yeah.
but it's
Now,
pretty
have
awesome.
you by chance seen the brand new Mustangs?
Yeah.
They look like Ford Focuses. what why do you touch something like that and go so far backward, you know? I mean, because that's classic. Mustang Camaros,
Yeah,
they're classic. You can't just like, let's change this, you know, let's get rid of that. And it's like,
yeah,
oh my
yeah.
God.
No, you're right, Kermit. And only us guys who collected Hot Wheels would understand that kind of stuff. You know, why you do that? But I don't know, we're not in charge. They never ask us. So, I got a
We don't.
66 Corvette I'm gonna keep forever. That's old 427 horse, all gas, smell stink when you get out of it kind of car.
Now, did
Yeah.
you locate that in Hawaii?
Kauai, my friend on Kauai. He's a hot rod collector. He's president of the Kauai Hot Rod Club. And my wife and I would go. We still go to I don't know if you remember the Kaloa Plantation Days Parade they have every July. And they go through the town of Koloa, and we go to his house. We pick out a hot rod, and we all drive the hot rods, the Model A's and the Chevys through town, and pass out candy. You cannot rev it out. There's certain rules, 5 miles per hour max. And then later on, we found out, throwing candies on the floor wasn't kind of like nice. So we ended up buying Hot Wheels, like 300 Hot Wheels cars. And every time we make a stop, my wife would jump out and pass out the Hot Wheels to all the kids so they wouldn't have to run in front of the cars. So we got one coming up July. And then he had too many cars, the kind of people they just collect cars. So he said, "Hey, bro, you like buy one of my cars?" I said, "Yeah, I'll buy that Corvette," and yeah, it was yeah, I'm really good. Actually, my wife bought it for me. Yeah, because
Awesome.
my friend, man, he was like, it was pretty expensive. I was like, dude, he goes, oh, you want pilot, you can afford this. I said, yeah, but we friends 45 years, bro. Gee, give me the good 45-year friend price. So he wouldn't do it. And then my wife gets on the phone. She goes, hey, Harv, this is Nina. Really, I want to buy this for Kevin. And then he drops the price 20 grand for her. It's like everybody does things for my wife, but ay, 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 ay. Not gonna win, lose money, man.
Well, sometimes that female persuasion works a lot better than, 45 years of friendship. So, but, talk about avid car collectors. Once when I was still living there, must have been, I want to say 04, 05. There was a car show in Kapolei,
Hmm.
and I was talking to a guy there, and he had, I don't know where, he said somewhere in Makakilo,
Uh-huh.
he kept his cars. He had like 28 cars in this
Yeah.
specially built garage that was
Yeah.
like climate controlled and everything. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
boy, talk about, I mean, not like
Yeah.
a 66 Mustang where you're caring for that one body and,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you think
So
of guys like Jay Leno. I mean, golly, you got to have staff, you
yeah,
know.
there's still a lot of guys that do that. And I don't know. I mean, I had a pretty good job, so I don't know how these guys can afford these cars are like 100,000, $80,000 a piece. And they come to the Capole Cars and Coffee, once a month, and they bring another car, and you talk to them, oh yeah, they got garages and cars, and they store them, and you're like, holy cow, that's pretty awesome, man. But I don't know how they do it. I think, it's a Y chromosome thing, I think, we just do that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. I love it.
Now, did you do 4 years at UH or more?
Yeah, I did 4 years and one summer. When you're paying for your own credits, you try to make it count and, and make it go by as fast as you can. So, yeah, I did 4 years at UH, and then towards the beginning of the senior year, I thought, man, I better make these credits work. So I started shotgunning all my resumes out. And uh, I don't know, did you know Ralph Hasegawa, 1976 grad? he was in wrestling. He was my wrestling partner. And
Ralph Pasigawa.
yeah, really great guy. His dad went to Kamehameha. He was the professor of aerospace studies, and he knew I wanted to fly airplanes, but I just couldn't afford it. So he had encouraged me to apply for the Air Force. It was a lengthy process. He said it was going to take over at least over 6 months of battery tests and stuff. But so in the meantime, I shot out all the resumes, and after graduating from UH, I got a call from Honolulu Police Department, and they wanted me to work undercover narcotics. And they said, "Brah, I had this interview down in K Lagoon. Some looked like homeless guys, but they were undercover cops, and they were like." You got any friends in the police department? And I said, yeah, yeah. Clay Chung, Lori Chow, I knew Brian Cornea had gone. And they said, oh, nobody can know you. So they're going to hear that you got disqualified because you had a back problem. And then immediately I said, it's not for me, man. It's not my style of work. So luckily, the DOE called, and I ended up being a high school teacher just 3 doors down from your dad, teaching high school. I love your dad, man. He was like a redwood in a field of weeds. When he came by, the kids sat up straight, and it was a rough job out in the West Side to do that. But yeah, he was awesome. So anyway, I taught that and then coached basketball and track and football to supplement the teaching income. But it didn't last just a year. And then, in April of 1980, I got a letter from the Air Force that said, "Hey, Lieutenant Garcia, report to Columbus Air Force Base, Mississippi on May 11th." So I sold everything I had except my guitar, took my $2,000, and I went to Mississippi. And
Now, wait a minute. So, as a teacher, are you in the Guard then, or already in the Air
no,
Force?
no, the guard came after active duty. So I had to go to flight school first, so I was doing nothing but teaching and coaching for a while. And
Then,
then,
how did you get to be lieutenant? Just
oh, so when they write you a letter, they go, "Hey, Lieutenant," because I had to go through a battery of tests, and you got to go to a summer training, and then they commission you as a lieutenant,
wow, okay.
and in the Air Force to do the Air Force. So kind of scary, you're like, well, what am I getting myself into? Um, but I remember week one, I told my mom, I don't think this is gonna last. I don't do all this stuff. We had ROTC training, but it was nothing like that. And it was 28 years later, I was walking out. Those plans never work out, right? I was actually gonna quit after my 14th year. I had orders to Desert Storm. And after Desert Storm, a lot of my friends were quitting the military. They were like, I got my airline job. I don't need this piece of junk. And la da 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 da. And everybody was tired of flying. And I had dinner with my mom and I said, hey, listen, I'm gonna quit the Air Force. I just and the Air National Guard. I'm really tired. And she said, she goes, Kevin, the United States has been involved in a conflict every 10 years. Why don't you just wait 9 years before you make a decision? So I did. And that was one of the best things that ever happened because, later on, I had a lot of friends calling saying, hey, bro, can you give me orders to the guard, or can you get me in a flying position as the airline started furloughing people and laying people off. So yeah, my mom, she was pretty awesome lady.
Your flight training started right away when you joined the Air Force?
Yeah, yeah. I showed up on base on day one, May 11th, 1990, and it was pretty intense. Pilot training was intense. Mississippi was interesting. Um, it's in Mississippi, it was like you were in the story To Kill a Mockingbird. Coming from Hawaii, there's a lot of segregation, and you're like, I got to visit both sides. I went in the sticks with my friends, you know, uh, got to go to an all-black bar and hang out with them. They were really wonderful. I got to go into town and hang out with the other folks and go to church with them. And it was just awesome. But segregation, they still had segregation, which was pretty awkward to me. Uh, yeah, but flight school was kind of like the first day of Top Gun. You know, Top Gun did not come out yet. They were actually going to make the movie Top Gun with Dean Martin Jr. And he was a couple classes behind me. They were going to give him an F4. He's going to fly an F4. And then later on, they were going to make the movie Top Gun using the Air Force. But Dean Martin he killed himself in an aircraft accident. So then they made Top Gun with Tom Cruise in the Navy. But uh, it's like the first day you show up in this huge auditorium and you got your flight suits, your helmets, you got your gloves, your G suits, and you got a stack of books this high. And the commander comes up and he says, "Gentlemen, we got 78 of you. By the 11th month, only 32 of you will be standing." And everybody's looking around, giving everybody the stink eye. I mean, look, you're gone. And I remember the guy next to me to my left, his name was Mark Schwartz. Uh, 3.8 GPA Stanford, and he's reading like, these guys that they go like this when they read. And they flip the page and they flip the page, and I'm like, holy cow. I was just a school teacher. And then the guy to my right, of course, was Bubba, who had designed his own Mustang. And I'm thinking, man, this is gonna be a lot of work. So uh unlike everybody else, I didn't party or anything like this. Everybody was going out to the Mississippi University for Women and every weekend and going places. I just stayed in and studied. And it's kind of like what, Billy Canoy, the Big Island mayor, he said, you control what you can control, right? And what you can control is how much you study and how hard you study. So I remember thinking, if this 11 months of my life is just a small portion, if I last to 80 years old, then I better make the best of it. So I stayed in. Every now and then I'd get on my motorcycle and bike down to Tuscaloosa, watch Alabama play football. I watched Auburn. I even went down one time to see not Louisiana Tech, LSU play, stuff like that on the weekends, just to get away and then come back and finish my flying career. But by the seventh month, you knew who was going to get caught. You could tell. And you fly formation with some of these guys that just, they talk a wild story like Maverick and Iceman and all this stuff. And then you actually fly formation with them and you realize how they suck. They're terrible, and you're like, oh, he's not going to be here. And he's not going to be here tomorrow. And so they were cutting people left and right. But, the strange thing is when you end up with the last 32, you become lifelong friends. It's kind of like you all went through this funnel and came out together. And so I still keep in touch with the guys who went to flight school with me.
Were there was there a period of time within those 11 months or whatever where there was tension, like you were thinking to yourself, I don't know if I'm going to make 32 or not, or were you kind of confident that, oh,
There is. No, every day there is. Every day you think is today the day. So you can't sneeze wrong, you can't land on a wrong marker. You got to have, they call what is stand-ups and memory items, tests. You usually academics in the morning and flew at night, or you flew in the morning and academics in the afternoon, and um, you caught whatever sleep you could. There were some physical events, but yeah, every day you're like, is this the day that, you know, just goes bad? There's nothing you can do. Just try your best, and it goes bad, and then you'll be cut. But like I say, when you get to like the ninth month, you kind of know you got this. You kind of know that he's gonna be gone, and um, yeah. So if you're not nervous every day, you're doing something wrong. You gotta be you got to feel like there's some kind of anxiety, like somebody's uh, Like you better stay with your A game. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep up.
Like they say in football, you hear those footsteps behind you, right?
Oh, the NFL guys. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Ah.
So period of time, why years, what years you made the conversion from Air Force life to civilian pilot life?
Yeah, so you have a commitment in the military. You have a 10-year commitment as a pilot.
Oh,
Um,
wow, that's news.
yeah, you have it because you have to pay back for all that flight school training. But what happened was, so I got assigned to Hickam doing this spy mission. It was called Project Corona, and they wrote a book on it. So back in the 80s and 70s and 60s, we had a Cold War going on between Russia and the United States. And we actually had spy satellites. Both countries had spy satellites. And these satellite stations would take pictures and gather data of the other country, and then the space station would put it in these space capsules that were made of pure gold, $150 million each. And then the space capsule would drop back into the Earth's atmosphere and it would be streaming down. And it was our job to catch the space capsule in the sky and deorbited space capsules, because if you missed it, it would drop into international waters. And there was always a Russian trawler there to take it because it's international waters, it's anybody's property. So that's what we did. And then to keep the press and the public off our back, we had to do overwater search and rescue missions on the side. So if anybody asked, that's what we were doing, but we were really um, spying on the Russians. And eventually, what happened was we were doing that until they made the space shuttle. All they had to do was find a way for the space shuttle to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere at a speed um, it would come in really fast, and so they burn up, right? So they have to find something to cover the space shuttle so it could withstand the re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. And ironically, my father-in-law was a chemistry professor at UCLA, and he had a lot of companies with carbon fiber, and so they asked him to make the tile for the space shuttle. And after he made the tile for the space shuttle, they launched it, and his job got rid of my job.
Brother, you have walked through some really specialized small circles.
Well, so because they were getting rid of this secret mission, they released us from our 10-year commitment. And so I had only 5 years of Air Force, and then it was out in the street. And then so the National Guard, the guys of the National Guard said, "Hey, why don't you come over here and be an instructor? And um, when you're in the National Guard, you can fly concurrently for airlines." So I got hired by briefly by Hawaiian until they went to bankruptcy, and then
What year is
uh,
this now?
this was 1986.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then I got hired by United Airlines and spent the next 34, 35 years at United Airlines while flying for the National Guard, and eventually retired. And I promise you, Kermit, every day of flying was like not working. It was just awesome. I mean, you have to study and do all that stuff, but I mean, you get an office that no one else in the world sees, at 39,000 feet, 40,000 feet. The earth is beautiful from the sky. Um, yeah, and I really am thankful because I couldn't have dreamt of all that.
Now,
But
educate me for a second. To become a pilot, whether it's military or commercial,
mhm.
do you need to have 20/20 vision?
No, you used to. And most of the guys I met when we got in our age, when we got, we're about 2015. I was 2015, 2010 and sometimes, but no, not anymore. Because you won't find too many people, with looking at computers and iPads and all that stuff. By the time you walk out, your eyes are just boinky.
Mm.
So they have I think the military went up to like 2050, as long as, and in the commercial airlines too, as long as you can wear glasses that will correct you to 20/20, you can pass your medical. And then there's other physical things that you have to do to pass your medical each year, every 6 months in the military, or every six months in the air, in the civilian world, and every year in the military, you have to pass this physical to continue flying.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, it was it was it was a good time, you know. I gotta say, you know, it almost seemed like flying airplanes was like just being on a bullet train full of life events, you know, one event after another, and then some of these events were happy and adventurous, and some of these events were filled with moments that were just um sad and unexpected, like losing friends in crashes or something. And sometimes these events were filled with moments or snapshots of the world that would just take your breath away. And then sometimes they were filled with snapshots that would just make you cry. But I can tell you that every event in my life has been filled with um, grace and blessings that I will truly remember forever. My
Now, in the commercial world, is there protocol like you must be a co-pilot for X amount of time before you can be pilot?
Yeah, yeah. So normally, like any occupation, you know, you have to start at the bottom, the lowest pay, and then eventually you work yourself up to a first officer and then captain. Then if you decide to go into another airplane, a bigger airplane, you probably have to go back to being a first officer and then work your way back up to a captain. And then it goes
Okay.
like that. But it all goes in sine waves, right? Like every occupation, there's uh ebbs and flows. So right now, in the airline industry, we're going through this anomaly where you can actually be on the street and 2 years later be at the airline as a first officer on the 737, which in our days, it took a minimum of 10 years of time and hours to fulfill. But now
Wow.
things are moving kind of fast, and it can be a little concerning when I look back right now, but there's a lot of hope too, you know.
Wow.
Concerning because we have a different generation of pilots. Um, we have not as much experience, but we have automation now in airplanes that will save you, that actually prevents you from doing anything wrong. Like the 787, for example, if it went into an upset situation for any reason, thunderstorms, turbulence, wake turbulence, if it went upside down, if you let go of the airplane, it's like a gyro. It actually turns upright and puts you in an upright situation. And all you have to do as a pilot is follow through and recover the airplane. Back in the old days when we started, you know, we're talking about putting rivets together and learning each system and learning how to fly. In today's world, they're managing computers on the airplane. They're managing cockpits. They're managing people in the back and flight attendants and other crew members. So we've
Hmm.
come a long way in aviation, and that's the hopeful part of it. The concerning part is we have a brand new set of pilots that were just in the streets 2 years ago and picked the aviation because of the fame and glory and the money, not because they really wanted to be pilots inside. And you know, you add to that, we have a bunch of controllers, air traffic controllers that have retired in mass. And the controllers that came in are working with archaic computers. If you go in there, it's unbelievable some of the junk they have in there. Um, the people that work on the ground crew are, you know, pushing back airplanes. They're pushing airplanes back into other airplanes just because they're inexperienced. So eventually we'll get through this transition. Like every occupation, we'll get to just how much how much hurt we're gonna have, and hopefully we don't have any. Um, that's the big mystery right now. You know, add that to other outside factors and distractions like economy and pay and all that stuff. it's going to be interesting. But I pick and choose which flights very carefully that I go on now, which airlines I fly. I fly because I know the training in the background of most of them.
Okay, I guess I'll call you up first to to run them through your screening. You know, I've always had a fascination with aviation because I'm lousy at history, but you think back to the Wright brothers.
Yes.
That's really not a whole lot of time for us to have gotten to the point where we've got space shuttles and
Yeah.
Raptor jets and 787s. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge jump, man.
That is. That's a huge jump. Actually, you're right, because back in 1970, they had just pumped out the first 747. Pan American bought the first 747 in 1969, 1970. And when you look back, it's 2025, but it's not that far away, you know? And it's just because I think we as human beings, we have really smart engineers. We use GP now, processors. Um, we had anti-skid systems, anti-brake systems long before, back in the 50s, but everything had just fallen into place and the advancement or the race to be first in aviation has come really far and gone fast, really fast. And so, as even today, I got 40 years behind me, but I'm still catching up or reading up or trying to keep up on the new things that come out every day because the United States has a system. Europe has a system, an aviation system. Um, Asia has a different system, and they have different rules, and trying to keep up with them sometimes is can be a challenge. But yeah, you're right. We've come a long way um, from the old days when we used to just build airplanes and put rivets together. I, I don't remember. Do you remember when they brought the first 747 to Hawaii in 1970? Boeing
Mm.
brought the first 747 and they opened it up on the ramp. It was Pan Am. And they opened up on the ramp and the whole state came out. And you could walk up the stairs through the airplane, up the piano bar, and then back down. And my dad was a baggage handler at Pan Am. So after everybody left, I went to go pick him up with my mom, and my dad took me by the hand. We walked up the stairways and we looked in the front door and we just marveled at how long the airplane was. It's 210 feet long. You can't even see the back of the airplane from the front door. And then we went up to the piano bar and then we went into the cockpit and my dad put me in the left seat and he jumped in the right seat and we made believe like we were on a flight. It was so much fun. Uh,
That's a
I
front row
remember
seat, man.
I know, because you're sitting 3 stories high, like actually it's almost 40 feet, and you're like, holy cow, somebody got to clean the top of that jetway. Look at all those rubbish on top of that. And I didn't know all those birds stay there, but uh yeah, and I remember going home and my mom asked my dad, she goes, well, how'd it go? And he said, well, I don't know, but that look on his face, the boy's face was priceless. About 20 something years later, if you fast forward, I had an opportunity to fly a 747 from San Francisco to Honolulu, right? I called my dad. I said, Dad, listen, man, you got to come meet me in Honolulu when I land, gate 10. So pulled into the gate, all the people walked out. I went to the lobby, I grabbed my dad by the hand. We went up into the jetway. We laughed about the airplane. You still can't see the back of the airplane from the front door. And then we went to the cockpit and I put him in the left seat and I went in the right seat. And when I was explaining to him how we get from San Francisco to Honolulu, he just stared out the windows. But I promise you that look on his face was priceless. And I'll never forget that moment with my dad. It was pretty awesome.
Completed a circle, man. That's what
Yeah,
you did.
I could never have scripted that one.
How many kids you have, Kevin?
We got 5 boys.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 boys. None of them.
Ages?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now you give me the cognitive test, Kermit. They're somewhere between 80 and 20. I sometimes can't even remember their names, but No, they're awesome, awesome boys. Yeah. Uh, Mainly due to my wife, not me, but yeah, all boys.
Because I'm trying to think. There's no way I'm going to remember the year, but you and I sat in proximity at the new on-campus stadium,
Oh, we did.
and they called you guys down on the field and stuff. But at that time, I remember there was two boys, so I imagine you're two oldest.
Yeah, I don't even remember that stuff, man. That's pretty awesome, Kermit.
I
I
have
don't.
bits and pieces that just stick. I mean, nothing contiguous. I marvel at the generation before us
Yeah.
when an old timer would go, it was March of 64. And I'm going, I don't even know where I was March of this year, you know, or they'll
When
go,
your wife say,
yeah.
"Well, what were you wearing on your first date?"
And the generation above us, they remember,
Yeah.
you know, I pulled up under that maple tree in my girlfriend's yard and I'm going, there was a maple tree there? Yeah. Oh. But I think
As
because
long as you don't say the
they
wrong
had more
name.
room to hold on to the details. We have so much flooding into our brains now that
Oh my God.
stuff's got to wash out the back and be gone, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's yeah, you're right. But it's a kind of a double-edged sword because, we have all this technology, but we can also take notes and put them in our notes and go, okay, my brother's birthday is this is what I got to buy from the store today because I won't remember by the time I finally get there. So,
I know my wife just shakes her head and in disbelief, you know. She sends me for two items. I write them both down.
yeah.
And the store is like 7 minutes away. She goes, "What are you doing?" Honey, I'm gonna walk in. One person's gonna say hi to me. Both items are gone.
That's, yeah, but you know what I heard, Kermit? The benefit of being old is when you need to mail a mail. You need to mail an envelope. You don't have to lick the stamp anymore. You simply slide it across the drool on your chin like that. So plus one. Uh,
The benefits, the benefits.
yeah, yeah. I got five boys. None of them went to come in, yeah. They didn't get in. Again, based on looks.
Uh, how
But
widespread are they? Are they within the continent
yeah,
or
34 to 25, 22. The oldest one, he manages a bunch of dollar stores across the nation. He started off in Utah and now he's in Nebraska, and he's happy. He's just like, this is what I want to do, Dad. This is fine. Um, Boy number two is son number two went to USC Law School, and he's now a corporate trust attorney in Los Angeles.
oh,
Um, the third guy, it was funny. He spent a lot of time in the emergency room as a kid, so I never thought he'd go to med school. So he went to Creighton Med School, and then he just finished his residency last year, and so he got a job in Omaha, Nebraska. That's the one with the two grandkids that we visit, and we bought a house next to. Son number four, he just came back from the Philippines. He's in the not special forces, security forces full time. And he gets deployed everywhere. So he just came back from the Philippines like 2 days ago. And then he goes to Australia in June. But he always tells me, don't tell anybody where I'm supposed to go. It's a secret.
so
And I go,
what
oh my
branch is that?
God. Huh?
So what
Oh, Air
branch is
Force.
that? Okay.
Air Force. Yeah. And then son number five, I call him the project. He's still going to Leeward Community College, LCC, Last Chance College. He's still going there, and he knows what he wants to be and practicing. He wants to be a herpetologist, whatever that is, something to do with alligators and snakes, but he just doesn't know how to get there yet. So as soon as he figures that out, I think he'll be my best.
Huh.
Yeah, but. I remember
He
we
ought, he ought to go study in Florida if he's into alligators and snakes.
oh, so yeah, so I wasn't sure, you know, I never heard of that, right? So I was like, son, is this what you really want to do that, you know? And he's like, yeah, I love like lizards and stuff. And so one summer, there's a place called Gatorland. Have you heard of that in Florida?
Mm.
Gatorland? So he's been online with all these employees from Gatorland, and I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll take you to Gatorland. Let's go check it out. So we went. He and I went to Gatorland. Nobody else in my family wanted to go. They're like, ugh, ugh. So we went to Gatorland in oh, what is that? It's not Tampa, Orlando. We went to Gatorland Orlando, right? And we show up, and all the guys are like, the employees are like, Kevin, that's his name, Kevin. And he's like, hey. And I didn't know he was talking to him for the past year, and he brought like 36 boxes of macadamia candies, and he's passing them out. They're like, yeah, bro, you know. And they gave us a backstage tour, you know, like when you go to Disneyland, you get a backstage tour. Yeah, we got to go backstage with all the celebrities and take pictures with snakes. Of course, he did. I hate those things. And then there was one special enclosure, Kermit, where they got this 30-foot albino alligator, big dude, and they keep him by himself because he's pretty aggressive, right? So they said, Kevin, you want to feed this thing? He's like, yeah. So they give him this bucket of chicken, and he walks in this small enclosure with the trainer, of course. And Kermit, I swear he's like maybe 3 feet away from the alligator, and he's throwing chicken at him, right? So I'm outside watching this and like, this better end good. And and he throws one of the chickens and it falls halfway between him and the alligator, right? So now there's this pregnant pause because I'm watching this alligator look at the chicken, look at him, chicken, him. And my son's looking at the chicken, alligator. And we're gonna see who's gonna draw first, right? And I'm thinking, this is where I lose my son. I wonder what my insurance policy was on him. So then the trainer intervenes. He gets a bucket and he moves the alligator out, and then my son picks up the chicken and feeds it to him. But yeah, I was convinced after that trip that yeah, he really wants to work with alligators and snakes, and you know, he zip lined over a lake of alligators and just had fun. And I don't know, you know, I don't know, I really don't know whose kid that is. I don't know if the milkman was running around at that time or what, but he looks like me.
Do you
But
remember him having that fascination early on, or no?
no, I don't know where he got that from, you know.
Like come home one day, he's in third grade and he's got 40 geckos in a shoebox, or
You know, kids are strange, right? From it, like you raise them, same environment, try to do the same things, play baseball, football, all that good stuff. And then at some point they all go poof. It was almost like it was predetermined where they were gonna go or what they were gonna be because I always thought my kids were gonna be pilots. You know, it was such an easy path. Um, because you know I had the template. I knew how I sat on the pilot selection board with the guard. I could pick pilots. I did a stint at United Airlines on their selection panel. I sit on the Hawaiian Airlines selection panel for pilots. Um, it's an easy road for them. I used to take them flying. No, I don't want to be pilots. And that's cool because it has to come from inside. You know, it's not something that your father or your brother and your uncle can say, hey, you should be a pilot. And you go, yeah. Because the next 40 years, you know, you gotta wake up, you gotta study, and every flight you gotta show up with your A game. Because if you don't, you're doing a disservice to the 312, 350 people behind you. It's not fair. And uh, you know, this is the way I look at it. This is my perspective. You know, if a doctor had to suffer the same pains and aches and suffering you had because he had botched the surgery, or if an attorney suffered the same incarceration you had because he lost your case to incompetency, they would show up at work every day with their best and their A game, right? And I'm not saying they don't, but we as pilots are tied directly to the fate of the passengers behind us. We're just 1 second ahead of them at the scene of the accident. So it behooves you to bring your A game and be your best every time you show up and you strap onto the airplane. And if that's not what you want to do, then don't do it. Just don't do it. But I
Well, yeah, I
remember,
mean, if you're gonna have to wake up for the next 40 years and do something, you don't want to dread it on your way out of the driveway
eh,
every morning.
it's,
It's just
yeah,
gonna
yeah, it's
eat
just,
you up.
yeah. And this occupation, it tells on you. You can tell the people are not putting the effort in. But I've sat at the gate so many times getting ready to push back, and I would hear the co-pilot's son call, going to Embry-Riddle or UND or Purdue University Flight School, and they would go, Dad. I got an FAA check ride on Friday. Review with me again. How do I determine my fuel from point A to point B and into the alternate and holding patterns and calculate the winds and the 3-to-1 descent? And, you'd hear him go, hey, you know what? I got to go to Shanghai right now. So I'll call you back when I get to Shanghai. And Mike's son would call, Dad, I got a biochemistry exam on Friday. And I'm like, oh, sucks to be you. I don't even know how to spell biochemistry if you spotted me the first 11 letters. Click. No. Anyway, they turned out okay. Uh, I wish they had gone to Kamehameha, but they did not. But yeah, I never imposed being a pilot on my kids because, life is so dynamic anyway for young men and women, and they constantly go through changes. And, Kermit, um, we all want them to be a certain way because, we as parents sometimes grade ourselves by what our kids do. But they already have inherent challenges in growing up, so you have to be patient. And I just had one requirement for them. I don't care what they wanted to be, work with reptiles or anything. Just be a good man. I told them, you guys just be a good man. And eventually, as a parent, you figured you have to have faith that if you do your best as a dad, as a parent, then they'll eventually choose a platform. And then they'll learn how wonderful and important it is to use their platform to change the trajectory of other people's lives. And so far, crossing my fingers, I got one more to go.
Now, as a professional, you traveled so much. Do you enjoy traveling recreationally?
I hate it. I hate airports. I hate TSA. I hate sitting in the back. I hate middle seats. I hate economy. Um, I don't like any of that stuff. My wife still loves traveling, but I go to see the grandkids. I go to see my mother-in-law in Huntington Beach. I go to only because I have to. But I mean, we go to Japan once a year. We try to go twice a year. We go to other places, but I just dread. My wife sometimes hates traveling with me because I make all kinds of noise. Oh man, TSA sucked. It's different as an aircrew member. You go through special lines, and when I was flying, I carried a gun. We have um, we have a program called the FFDO program where some of us carry guns to protect the cockpit. And you have to go through this Federal Air Marshal program. We carried an HK. Back then, we carried HK-40s, 10 millimeter hollow points. And since then, they have changed the gun. I can't tell you what it is. But yeah, you go through this course, this legal course. And so I always went through a special entrance as a behind the scene entrance to get through security and to the airplane. It was sweet. That once you leave, you're a passenger now, and I can see why everybody gets angry, and it's some of the things they don't make sense. So no, I don't like to travel. When I do travel, I just buy first class tickets. That's it. Just buy it, get out of the way, go sleep. It's like I have dinner with Charlie Padua and Albert Cam all the time, and Charlie was going, "Hey, kid, we're in the back nine already of our lives. We're in the back nine. Just spend the money." So yeah, I just buy the first class tickets and relax, man. Just otherwise, I hate it. I just
Yeah.
hate it.
Do you have a favorite place in the world that you've been?
So I used to get this question all the time. Uh, to be honest, Kermit, boy, he's the favorite place in the world. It's the best place in the world. There's a lot of beautiful places. Cancun, I went to Cancun, Frankfurt, Barcelona, Beijing, Shanghai, Nicaragua, all the Micronesian islands, Guam, Seoul, Hong Kong. They're all nice to see one time, but Hawaii is the best. And we have the best
Wow.
people, really. And there's a lot of nice people around the world, but we have the best. So Japan has the best food.
I've heard
Yeah. That's why we go.
in a handful of these uh, chat people have said they've been to Japan and just in love. So
Maybe we can get Charlie Kyoho to put a thing together for a class so we can all go. You know, I know the class of 75 in Kohoku went on a Alaskan cruise together and they booked the whole boat. And I heard it was so much fun. So yeah, maybe Charlie can, he was in the industry. He can book us and we can all go and do the tour bus thing and bring our walkers and our wheelchairs, ukuleles. Gonna be so much fun.
yeah, it. I think it would. I really would. And I
Yeah.
think we would be the class to pull it off. I mean,
Oh, we have such an awesome class, man. I love everybody. Yeah, like I said, if I could change the script of my life, I would bring, I wish I could have brought all my classmates, my friends, and my family on the journey with me. We just have so much fun. It would be awesome. Nice, nice, such nice people. And what you're doing also helps me because some of the people I didn't even know. I didn't know Kamuela Chan, but man, he's awesome. I didn't know Dwayne Au that much. It's really nice to hear all their stories. Uh, yeah, I'm just pretty excited about the
and
upcoming
you know
event.
what's nice? I'm really appreciating the maturity because if I had tried to do this 2 years after we graduated,
Oh, yeah,
it would
way
have
different.
sucked.
Yeah,
I
way different.
mean, there would have been no audience for half of them.
Yeah, way
I
different.
remember that guy used to push me down the stairs and whatever, talk about my puka shoes and
Yeah.
I
Well, our
mean,
priorities are much different now. You know, yeah, our priorities are much different,
yeah.
and most of
So
us
do
have
you have
settled.
plans to do class night?
Yeah, Natsunoya. At first, I didn't. I wasn't gonna go at all because, yeah. Did you go to the one 10 years ago in Natsunoya? 40th it was there. It was so much fun, and I thought there's nothing that can beat that. And it's just gonna be a downer, but um, Charlie Padua and Albert convinced me you should go. So yeah, so I bought the tickets and then I started watching your podcast, and I was like, oh, I am so glad I bought tickets to go. I missed out on the luau tickets and breakfast tickets, but that's okay. I'll get one night with the classmates. So, yeah.
So Albert is in Hawaii as well as Charlie Padua. You see them
Charlie
frequently?
comes back every now and then for Merry Monarch, and
Oh,
uh,
okay.
and it's right on his birthday too, or his birthday, and or when I was in Las Vegas last time, we went over to his house, had some In-N-Out burger, but Albert, I talk to Albert all the time. Uh, so much fun getting together with him, talking to him and Billy. Um, yeah, Albert always calls me on my birthday. He always goes, "Hey, Billy Cam told me to call you and say happy birthday. She doesn't remember any dates, but your birthday, she remembers." So he calls me and I can count on a call from Billy Cam.
Or her representative, right?
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
Albert. I'm calling from the office of Billy Cam.
yeah. Oh, so much fun.
Good, good, man. This has been another one. Just I'm thrilled by them. So fun. I'm looking forward. Classmate night is not going to be anywhere near long enough because
Yeah,
I think it's only like 4.5 hours. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're
It'll
right.
be, that's
But continue to do this after reunion. And
I
then we
plan
can
to.
get acquainted with everybody and then, makes us look forward for the 55th or the 60th. It gets more exciting as we get older. It's pretty awesome.
And I like
Uh,
your attitude with us being on the back nine, Just
yeah.
just pull out that one wood for every shot.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm gonna retire soon and then um yeah, and then just spend all my money. So I remember I know my kids always ask me, well, yeah, when you gonna retire? When you gonna retire? I go, I don't know, but I told them when I retire, they're gonna know because I'm gonna put on the rattiest t-shirt, sit on a red velvet couch with a big bag of Cheetos and smoke some pot. My youngest boy, he goes, Dad, you can't do that. I was like, they're so bossy, right? So I said, hey, listen, then I'm gonna join a nudist colony for people over 65.
Oh, yeah,
And
there
he
you
goes,
go.
yeah, I know. He goes, well, you can eat something stronger than pot. Yeah, so if anybody wants to join me or think it's a good idea to join a nudist colony for people over 65, just shoot me a text at 1-808-778-6528 hashtag I hope my eyeballs don't burn out and I can still see in color.
So currently, you still putting in about 40 hours a week somewhere doing something,
No, I'm
or
like you, Kermit. I'm kind of like you pick your days. So after I retired from United Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines called, hey, can you be a sim instructor for our 787 pilots? And I said, what's my schedule like? And they said, you pick your schedule. We just we pay you. So it's kind of nice, like being a consultant on the outside. You just like some days you can work one day a month and they have crews always in training and you just pick the days that you want to work and train crews for their 787s FAA and it's kind of a nice gig, and it makes you wake up with a purpose to learn more and train, teach other people what you've learned in the last 40 years and when that purpose finally changes, then I'll know it's time. Time to smoke some
oh,
pot.
yeah, for me personally, mentally, I don't know if I'll ever fully retire because you talk about that purpose. I've got to have, doesn't have to be a big purpose, but just
Right.
has to be a
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Otherwise,
Otherwise,
I'll get up, have breakfast, and then just have no plan.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. So, um, oh, I just got another message. Something about these people are almost finished their simulator. That's when they send you a message, that's, I don't know, it's either good or bad. Either they're past, or like, hey, how come you didn't tell me about these guys not knowing how to do this kind of stuff? So,
Yeah. Well, I
but
just want to put the word out too. Um, I haven't run out, but I'm running low, and I think it might be the proximity to our reunion. People are tying up some loose ends, getting a little bit busier, but
mm,
I'm looking for people to share their stories. They've all been good in my eyes. They've all been just excellent.
yeah,
Um, come on, tell me a story that somehow maybe better than Kevin's story. I don't know.
they're all better than
Connect with me.
Kevin's.
And offline, I'm gonna probably connect with you. I'd love to get in touch with Alcam.
I would love you to do LCAM. L
So
is
just gotta get him
just
to say yes.
very interesting, smart
Charlie,
dude.
Charlie says not now, so I'm gonna wait and see.
Oh,
Hopefully things change. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
my brother, it's been a pleasure.
Kermit,
Fantastic.
thank you again for everything you do. You're awesome, man. Thank you for being you. I appreciate it. And remember, it's by believing in roses that brings them to bloom. So,
Absolutely, my
love
man.
you. Class of 75 y more. All
See you at class night.
right, ahoy.